Imagine typing your favorite website, and instead of loading, you just get an error page. Now imagine that happening to millions of people at the exact same second. Here's the uncomfortable truth about the modern web: it feels infinite, but it leans on a handful of invisible companies. When one of them stumbles, the ripple can knock out banks, airlines, streaming apps, and government sites all together. You never see these companies, but you depend on them every single day. So what actually happens when the plumbing of the internet cracks? Stick around, because the cause is smaller than you'd ever guess. June 8, 2021. It's morning in the US, midday in Europe, and everything is normal. Then, in under a minute, the web breaks. The outage traced back to a company called Fastly, a content delivery network. Think of a CDN as a global network of warehouses that store copies of websites close to you, so pages load fast. When Fastly went down, its warehouses stopped serving those copies, and suddenly huge sites had nowhere to load from. Within minutes, the casualty list read like a who's who of the internet: news sites, shopping giants, and even government portals. The scale was staggering. Fastly's network handles a massive slice of global web traffic, and this single failure took major platforms offline for close to an hour. For a web that runs on split-second speed, an hour of darkness is an eternity. But here's the twist nobody expected. This wasn't a hacker. It wasn't a cyber attack. It was something far more ordinary. The real cause was a software bug that had been sitting quietly in Fastly's system for weeks. It was harmless, dormant, waiting. Then one single customer changed a valid setting on their account, and that change tripped the hidden bug across the entire network at once. Think about how fragile that is. One normal customer, doing one normal thing, and half the web blinked out of existence. To understand why one bug spread so far, look at how concentrated the CDN market really is. A small number of providers carry the vast majority of the world's traffic. So a fault in one provider isn't a small local problem, it's a global one. And this is where it gets genuinely wild, because the way engineers fixed it is almost hard to believe. Fastly detected the problem in about a minute, an incredibly fast catch. But detecting isn't fixing. Their engineers had to identify the exact broken configuration, disable it, and then carefully bring the whole global network back online without triggering a second collapse. That recovery is a delicate, high-stakes balancing act. Most services were back within an hour. But the internet had just shown everyone its scariest secret in broad daylight. That secret is called a single point of failure. It means the entire system depends on one component, so if that one piece breaks, everything downstream breaks with it. The web was built for speed and convenience, not for surviving the failure of its own shortcuts. This wasn't a one-off. Just a month later, another major outage hit a different provider, taking down banks and gaming networks. When you zoom out, these giant outages happen more often than people realize. Every year brings a handful of incidents big enough to make global headlines, each traced back to that same fragile, centralized design. The pattern keeps repeating because the underlying structure hasn't changed. So why don't companies just spread everything across multiple providers? The honest answer comes down to money and complexity. Running your site on 2 or 3 CDNs at once is expensive and hard to manage. So most companies pick one big trusted provider and hope it never fails. It usually works beautifully, right up until the day it doesn't, and then everyone fails together. There's a strange beauty in it. The same centralization that makes the web fast is exactly what makes it fragile. Here's the part most people miss: outages like this rarely lose your data. The information is safe. What breaks is the delivery, the path between the data and your screen. It's like the library never burned down, someone just locked every single door at once. And that's why the fix was so fast. Nothing was destroyed, engineers just had to find the right lock and turn the key. The financial cost, though, is very real. Even a single hour of downtime across major platforms can burn through enormous sums in lost sales and productivity. When the whole web pauses, the meter never stops running. After 2021, providers rebuilt their systems to fail more gracefully, isolating problems before they spread across the globe. The big shift was designing for failure instead of pretending it won't happen. Modern networks now try to contain a broken piece so it can't take down everything else. It's a mindset change: assume something will always break, and make sure it breaks quietly. But let's be honest, the web is still built on shortcuts. The next big outage isn't a question of if, but when. So the next time a site suddenly stops loading, remember it might not be your Wi-Fi at all. Somewhere, a tiny bug or a single setting could be quietly rippling across half the planet. The internet you trust is far more fragile, and far more fascinating, than it looks. The web feels unbreakable, but it's held together by invisible threads, and now you can see them.